Ding dong, ding dong. This is Shakes on a Plane calling, and we've got a 1 to 4 player co-op experience. This came out towards the end of last year. It's recently had some patches which have improved the game's polish no end, so I thought now was the best time to review Shakes on a Plane. It's 1 to 4 players. It is very Overcookedian to begin with, but actually what distinguishes Shakes on a Plane is all of the things that it does outside of its main mechanic. Each level sees you play as air hostesses needing to make the food for all the passengers that are in your plane. The planes are ridiculously laid out in a way that makes it impossibly difficult for you to be able to go around and get the burgers, cook the fries, make the coffee or the milkshake or the ice cream, whatever it is that you're trying to do. And each level, at least for like the first 10 or 12, keeps adding new mechanics and new twists on the tail. So you're like, oh God, there's another thing I've got to juggle. It's quite difficult to get up and running with, but after a while you get into the kind of flow of how things work and being able to have some food cooking in one side whilst you quickly have to run across and set off the coffee, and then you'll get out your trays and then you'll kind of chuck everything on together, deliver it to the passenger in time. That's all good, and it requires teamwork. You can throw things from one person to the other, which is really key, but a lot of the levels after about level 10 onwards starts to introduce like conveyor belts and like color coordinated portals and all of those kind of things to really throw up and make you have to attack every single level differently. There's also some minor spoiler here. You end up in some UFO planes later on, and they have a completely different layout, and so that also shakes things up literally on a plane again. What adds to Shakes on a Plane to make it unique and stand out is that your plane also has turbulence. And so what you have to do is your passengers will kind of get up and mill around. And when the turbulence warning hits, you'll need to basically pick up and grab the passengers and throw them into their seats so that they're seated for when the turbulence hits, but also then get to a chair yourself. And sometimes that's a bit like the last person standing stuck there. And then as the plane shakes, if anyone's upstanding, those passengers get injured, and that's a bad mark for you. If you're up, then you get hurt as well, and that will eliminate you from the round for a few seconds. And every second counts when you're trying to get a score for either 1, 2, or 3 stars, depending on how happy your passengers are by the end. Not only that, there's also other levels where you're not doing food at all, but you're actually sorting out baggage. And this becomes almost like a looking around for different tags, and different passengers will want to be like ejected out from the bottom of the plane at different destinations. So you've got a few seconds to find the matching tag for the luggage versus the passenger, reunite them together, and then watch them drop. And it's an interesting kind of switch up on things. Each character also has its own special move. Now, we completely forgot about this as we were playing because we were too busy basically trying to keep up with the game itself. But one of them can become invincible for a while. There's also one that can scream at passengers and they'll go back to their seats, which means that you can scream whilst serving someone else at the same time, multitasking at its best. And because quite often the planes are kind of moving and tilting around, and like trays will fly across the plane as well, and if you get hit by those, that will eliminate you for a few seconds and knock you out. These power-ups become quite useful because it means that you don't necessarily have to cross into harm's danger nearly as often as what you may need to have done if you didn't have these power-ups. We didn't explore them fully. We'd need to basically remember them because we were so busy panicking over everything else we just forgot. But it's good that those power-ups are there. Where Shakes on a Plane slightly has some issues is around the difficulty balancing and just the general polish of the game. A couple of times we had the game become unresponsive for controls and we'd have to back out to the main menu, reselect our characters and go back in again. It didn't happen often, but it did happen. The graphics also would have an occasional glitch every now and then as well. Very rare, but did still happen. The kind of main thing though is around the difficulty increasing, which they have tweaked on over time this year, and it's made it a bit easier. But if you're playing in single player mode, you take 2 characters in and you have to switch between the 2. Those levels are nigh on impossible once you get past halfway. For a single player person, you have to be proper good at Shakes on a Plane to be able to progress. But also what we found was that quite often the way how things time and pop up, it's really impossible to get like a perfect score on anything, because it might be like 2 seconds to go and someone will be like, I want a meal. And because they're then declared as not having been satisfied, that then counts on a mark against your score and drops down your overall rating. And if it's that like last 2 second thing, which is impossible to cover, that means a difference between a 3 or a 2 star, then that gets right on your goat. Even worse is that if you don't get 1 star, you don't get to unlock the next level. Now, occasionally we did come across this, but in general, we were able to hit 1 stars quite quickly. It's only where we'd absolutely been incompetent to the nth degree, which, given that I was playing, is quite regular. We would have to just restart that level and go again. But quite often, particularly later in the game, we would do like a practice run before we'd actually go for the main thing, because you need to understand the layout of each level, because one of its strengths actually is how different all the levels play by the layout. But also quite often new mechanics or a twist on a mechanic would take place, and because they are kind of explained, but you have to watch and understand and kind of go, oh yeah, that button does that and that's what's new. You would need kind of a quick run to just kind of say, yeah, right, I get it now, let's go for the real thing. One last thing I'd like to mention though, and I hope that it gets picked up in a future patch, it seems like this game is still being patched at the moment, so fingers crossed it will, is that there's a little bit of imprecision on tight areas on exactly what you pick up. And this is specifically around trays. So when you've got like meals and you can put multiple meals on a tray or multiple things on a tray for 1 meal, you'd pick up the tray, then you'd go over and you'd have to put different things on the tray and then deliver it to the passenger. Quite often it would end up that you'd end up putting the tray on the table next to the thing that you wanted to pick up, and then you'd like button mash to pick it back up again, and in doing so, because you were panicking, you'd pick it up and then you'd put it down, and then you'd pick up the burger and you'd be like, no, I want to get the tray, but then you'd have to put down the burger and pick up the tray, and I was like, trying to get round and do stuff. If that could be slightly more precise in a future patch, that would improve Shakes on a Plane greatly. However, whilst it's still a little bit rough around the edges, I do actually recommend Shakes on a Plane. It won't be for everyone. If you've been spoilt by Overcooked 2, moving out, tools up, I think you might find that this is a slight step down, but I still say it's worthy of your time. Just know that it's a little bit rough around the edges on the precision of picking up stuff and putting it down, and if you're playing on single player mode, you're going to cry. So that Shakes on a Plane, written review will be over on higherplanegames.com very, 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 very shortly, if not now. Until next time, stay safe in flight. Higher Plane Games is part of the Higher Plane Network, a completely independent media outlet supported by people like you. The goal is to create the best possible content that cultivates a richer indie scene for games as well as music and entertainment. To find out more and to get involved, visit patreon.com/higherplane network. Your support makes all the difference, and in return you'll gain access to bonus content and downloads. Thank you for watching.